Hi everyone. We're going to learn today two new tangles, laced and vertigo. And I think that you will find that these are going to be very fun to incorporate in our new voluntary assignment that I'm going to introduce to you later on. They're very fun and very nature-like. Maybe this one man-made-like. We'll see. Okay, laced and vertigo. So you'll find laced on page 80 of your Zentangle source book. And this is how it goes. You start out with two parallel lines. Now I'm making them about that far apart. You can make them skinny, you can make them fatter. It all depends on what you feel like. You'll get a different effect, of course, with different thicknesses. And you leave a space and do two more parallel lines. I am curving mine, as you can see, because I think that adds a lot of interest. Doing some more curves, leaving a space, curving again, leaving a space, heading up this way. Maybe I'll stop right there. So that's the first step. Second step is to make this kind of shape, starting a little ways up, and whoops, I kind of overshot that a little bit, but the idea is that you would touch those two ends. We'll do that again on this one. And here. And here. So I did the kind of bottom part of each of those sections. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the top part of the section in the sort of opposite direction, but it's the same idea. And you can see how this starts to really look like you've got a thread threading through something. Could be, oops, I do that right. But you can always fix things, right? There we go. And, my goodness, I have a lot of these that didn't end up right. There we go. Remember, in Zentangle, it's all about taking the mistakes you make and turning them into something. So the next step in this tangle is to fill in these shapes that have been created, and that's really what starts to make it look like lacing. Also, just think about this. Wouldn't it be fun to fill these shapes in with your watercolor pens in a color? It could be really pretty. So oops, there's lots of options there. All right, and as we finish that up, we're going to think about shading. So if you take your pencil and put down a little bit of graphite at that end and at that end, and do that all the way through, already you can see how that's adding dimension to this. Doesn't take very much graphite. And using your blending tool, just soften those edges a little bit. And now we really feel like the lace is going in and out. There you go. So there we go. That's called laced. Hey, so before we go on to do the next one, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the shading and the light source. Last week we had a question about it, and so I brought along my trusty artificial pear here. The light source in this room is from above, so that you can see that the highlight on this pear is right here, and that the shadow is to either side, maybe a little bit more down here because of the slope. So the light source is coming from above. And that was the choice in making the shading on this laced, was the light coming from above. And so there's shadow really on both sides. So that's what I meant by light source. Where is the light coming from? And I don't know if that makes it any easier, but I'm hoping that it does. So let's go on now to do vertigo, and I will explain how you make this beautiful, very nature-inspired tangle. So the first thing that you do is you start with a line, gently curved line, and make a parallel line next to it. And sort of taper it to a point at the end. The next step is to put what I will just refer to as a needle-like shape coming out of the side, also very thin and curving in that direction. And opposite, we're going to have one coming out this way, doing the same kind of thing. And I have seen this tangle done with, instead of curving lines, done with very straight lines, and that really looks like pine needles. So it's another way to do it, and if you'd like to try it that way, I think you would enjoy it. This one also definitely has a feeling of nature, but is a little more maybe graceful and fluid. So you can see I've done opposite sides going up the stem. Now the next step is to go back down to toward the base here, and between these first two needles, you're gonna make needles, but this time they're going to bend way, way down, like so. Like an upside down smile, which might be called a frown. Kind of goes, it's sort of opposing these first two needles. And you go up, find the space in between these two, and do another curvy down thing. And the same thing opposite. Of course, you're seeing that when I encounter another needle, I pick up my pen and then start it again when I get to the other side. Here we go. Getting all the way almost to the top. Great. Now the rest of the filling in, you could stop there, but most of the examples that you'll see of vertigo continue to add more layers. So I'm going to go back, look for a space, and add something there. And I think maybe I can get one in here. The idea is to continue adding these sort of opposing directional needles wherever you can fit them in. At this point, if you don't have a space to do it, then skip that area and try to find another one. To me, that's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to just add a few down here. Just just to fill in. Seems like I need something coming out of here. So I'm going to put that one in. You can keep going with this to make it as tangly as you like. Then the final piece is to put these little circles in, which I really enjoy seeing. I don't know why if they're floating there. I tend to put them along or at the end of the original needles, but you can even add more if you like. Maybe one there might be fun. And maybe one here. And there you go. By the way, that was on page 46. I should have told you that to begin with. Sorry about that. This is called Vertigo. Vertigo. So I'm going to explain the voluntary assignment for week 3, which is going to be a reflection on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. I wanted to show you first the materials that you're going to need to do this. You're going to need 2 templates, the one labeled number 3 and number 4. So if you haven't cut those out, cut them out, please. You're going to also need your usual pen and pencil and blending tool, a pair of scissors, of course, to cut out the templates, and your Zendala Marcus operandus, and I'm going to show you how to use that. And then lastly, this is the larger of the 3 sheets of special paper that I gave you. This is one of the 2 largest ones. It's called Bristol paper. And you're going to be using that to trace, using your template, number 3 circle. And you'll do that in a corner so that you save room for tracing other shapes at a later date. Finally, at the end, you're going to need your watercolor markers. You don't need that till the finish. So you can start by tracing with a pencil and cutting out your shape. Okay, once you've cut out your circle, I'm going to show you how to make some very special set of strings for this project. So put your circle in the center of the Marcus operandus, and I'm going to have you kind of look at all these marks, and there's many Zendalas that you can do using these points. We're going to use a couple of them. The first one is the point between A and B, and I want you to make just a little mark there very lightly with your pencil. And the next one is the point between E and F. And you're going to make a mark here. And next, you'll need to get your number 4 template, and you're going to put it on top here and keep kind of moving it around until number 4 template has connected those 2 dots, and then then you make a line following that. Okay, and it looks like that. The next one you're going to do is you're going to find the point between B and C, which is right there, and make a little mark, and use this template again to connect those 2 dots, and trace it, and there you go. Now, the reason that we're just doing the same string is that when anybody who volunteers to do this and volunteers to let us use your creation, when we put these Zentangles together, it's going to create a beautiful design. And there's many ways to put it together. But they're all going to be different, but there's going to be one thing the same. They're divided in the same way. Okay? So everybody do that. Point between A and B and E and F, and then point between B and C and E and F using number 4. Okay. Okay, so for the first part of this project, I would like everyone to choose a tangle and follow the line here that you had created using your Marcus operandus. And there's so many. I used poke leaf, you can see here, with a mixture of the tipple inside of it to create this kind of a garland effect. So there are many that you could choose from. So I marked some in my book. Of course, poke leaf is the one that I chose there that you could use. Another one might be this pepper tangulation. You could weave those together, and that might work nicely. Another one would be sprigs. If you remember doing sprigs. And again, you can combine it with other things. You could weave in some of the little bubbles, and make that maybe a little more interesting. Another one I found that you could use that we did last week was phlox. That would work well. And either variation. And the ones that we did today, you could do this one all the way, just following that line, laced, or you could do vertigo. So there really are a lot of options for you. And I think it could be really beautiful. So while we're all doing the same thing, we're going to be choosing different ways of accomplishing that. So that's the first step of the project. Now, is it starting to remind you of a world a little bit? Maybe our Earth? So while you're meditating as you're working on this, I want you to think of a wish, really, or a hope that you have for our world. And that, could be something to really think about with everything that's going on in our world right now, both with our planet's health and with our health. So be thinking about that as you work on this section. And then you're going to choose whatever you would like for this big section and whatever you would like for this one. But please leave this one blank. And you'll find out why later. So fill these two with whatever tangles that you like, and then leave this one blank. So here's an example of a finished piece that I did. I filled it and I added color, and I also added a word that I thought that I wanted to be an affirmation for the world, and my word was health. I could have written that out with a pen, which is perfectly fine to do, but I wanted to just offer another way of doing that. And some people don't feel comfortable with their own handwriting. You could cut out letters from a magazine to make your word, or even find that word someplace. So this is basically what's going to happen. And in the end, we're going to put these together in very interesting ways. There's many, many variations as to how you can do this. And it'll be really fun. So I hope that you'll participate in this project. I think it's going to be a really, really fun and beautiful one. All right. Have fun tangling.